Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the daily discussion for the 16th of October 2014. If you have any ideas for topics, you can leave them in the comments or use the links in the description to contact me. My name is Tuskeh, and today we shall be discussing my thoughts on the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch 6.0.2. So, it's hit. It's here. For you people in the EU, it's only been out a day, but for me in the US, I am in the US despite my accent, it's been out for a couple of days, and it's pretty good, I think. It's a very good pre-patch. It's not the best pre-patch out there, and I'll talk about why in just a bit, but I think it's very solid, and considering how technical it is, they've pulled it off, Blizzard pulled it off really quite well, I think. So I'm not really going to discuss too much about what the features are, I'm just going to kind of go over what my thoughts are about them, so let's get started. So the big one, first of all, well, the big one in my opinion, the new models. They are, without a shadow of a doubt, bloody fantastic. There is really no other way around it. They are absolutely amazing. I love them to death. I think they are just brilliant. I think Blizzard has done a magnificent job getting them done right. They still look kind of like the old models, but they still, at the same time, have their own flair to them, and I just think it's absolutely brilliant. And I see so many people complaining about them, and I have nothing to complain about. I really don't. My troll shaman, who I've fallen in love with again, by the way, absolutely love the shaman now. Just brilliant. And I'm going to make kind of a 6.0.2 what's changed guide for the shaman, so I'm going to do that, or at least for the elemental shaman. Might do resto, not quite sure. I have to wait and see, but that's definitely a plan. But yeah, Conso Canis, my shaman, just looks bloody magnificent. I just love it. I've been looking around at all the models, and I just think they're all really good. They've done a great job, and I don't understand why people are complaining. I think that people who say, oh, you know, it doesn't look exactly the same. Well, of course it bloody doesn't look exactly the same, because it's different. It's different, but in the same kind of style. That's the whole point of it. If you want to use the old models, but don't sit there and complain about it. I've heard people in my bloody guild saying, I don't like the new Shaman Ghost Wolf because it's too cuddly. Too cuddly. Yeah, apparently that's a thing. I'm not even gonna. You know, I don't understand that point of view at all. I think the new models are brilliant, and apparently that makes me a terrible person. So there we go. Let's move on. The stat squish. I bloody love it. I really do. I think the stat squish is really great. I love the fact that everything feels so much more understandable now. I love the whole idea of, you know, this NPC has 1,000,000 health. He's a boss. 1,000,000 health is a lot of health. And I love that. I just think that's really great. I love the whole thing of this boss has got 1,000,000 health. He's hits for, you know, 30,000 a hit. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of freaking damage. And it's like, yeah, that's what it should be like. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be, oh, this boss has, you know, Garrosh Heroic. Oh, he has 1,000,000,000 health. And he hits for, you know, 400,000 a swing. I don't know if he actually does that. I'm just gonna make up numbers, but yeah, that's my whole point. I just think that it feels so much more understandable, and it makes you feel more powerful when you start getting bigger numbers, and I'm perfectly happy with the numbers. I think that they've done it really well, and that I haven't really encountered any problems so far, although I hear there are quite a few problems with leveling, and apparently it's getting much more difficult, which I don't have a problem with. I think that leveling should be a bit more engaging, because I've talked about it before in the past, just to a certain extent. I do have a problem with the leveling process in World of Warcraft. I think that it's boring because it's really freaking easy. That's the whole problem with it. You just sit there and you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna press these buttons and oh, everything dies. Oh, I ding, do a ding, do a ding, do a ding. Then you do that right up until you hit level 90, and then you're like, right, I'm level 90. I feel weaker. That's just the way of it. I mean, I hit level 90 with my mage without heirlooms at any point, and I still felt weaker. I still felt weaker than the levels beforehand when I was, you know, just destroying things. And that really sucks. That's not how it should feel, and I hope that Blizzard, at least to some degree, keep things as they are now, with, you know, things actually being kind of difficult. I hear there are some bosses that is just like, oh yeah, you go into a 5-man and people in full heirlooms are getting 2-shot by trash and by bosses. That's kind of a little bit insane, but, you know, at least now you can't mass pull everything, which is good. I love that fact. I love the fact that you can't mass pull everything, so that's good. I like the leveling is a bit harder. Hopefully they make it a bit more balanced, but, you know, that's just the nature of it. There's a lot to balance, and it's kind of understandable that they've missed some things, and we'll talk about the bugs in just a bit. So, now let's discuss the questline quickly. So the questline in the Blasted Lands is a little bit disappointing, in my opinion. And it's not really that surprising. I'm not surprised that it's a little bit disappointing, because it felt a bit rushed, really. I mean, when I was doing it, I couldn't help but feel like, first of all, the quest design itself is archaic. It's from vanilla. I mean, it's literally like, I mean, you arrive on Shattershore, and you go and you kill orcs, and then you run back, and then you go and kill orcs that are next to the other orcs, and then you run back. And then you go and sabotage cannons that are right next to the orcs that you just killed, and then you run back. And I just think, wow, that's really old quest design. They couldn't have had like a communicator or just paced the quests or given you one big quest that was like, yeah, just fuck everything up and kill orcs and destroy their cannons, kill their scouts. I think in that regard, the quest design isn't that good. And also, they're really easy. Like, we were two-shotting enemies. It's like, oh yeah, go and kill 10 orcs. Bang! I just killed them all. Chain lightning can just destroy them. Maybe that's because I'm massively overgeared in my heroic gear, or my mythic gear now, I suppose. But, you know, I suppose that's just me. I want the challenge. I'm a mythic raid. I suppose I'm a mythic raider, technically. Although I haven't done any mythic raiding at the moment, so but yeah, that's my point. I love challenge, and it's not challenging in the slightest. There isn't really any threat of dying. At least I didn't find there was any threat of dying, so, you know, that kind of sucks, but that's not the end of the world. And there are also a couple of things about this questline. It's not super exciting. Like, for me, it was like, oh, cool, we're helping Thrall. And, oh, this is the leader of the old Blasted Lands Horde Fort. That's kind of cool. But they didn't really do too much in terms of making it exciting. Like, Thrall just kind of sits there. And he's like, yeah, go and do this. We'll stay here. Yeah, go and do that, we'll stay here. Oh, go and kill the final boss, I'll help you out. And he does, like, he casts one lightning bolt spell before we kill them. So that kind of sucked. I mean, I say I did it with the friend that I did Mr. Pandaria with, so there's that. But, I mean, either one of us could have easily two-shot any of the mobs we went up against. But, you know, that's just the way of it, and hopefully it won't be like that in Warlords. I really hope it won't, and hopefully the gear is just what's doing that at the moment. So, it's really easy, and it's not that exciting, but there is a nice little cool cinematic, which is nice, but other than that, it's not that exciting. But I'm not complaining, and I'll tell you why. This questline was likely rushed out in order to, you know, get some new content going for the patch and actually have kind of just something central to the whole patch to get you started. It's not representative of what the quests in Warlords of Draenor are going to be like. I really hope it's not, because it's really quite bad in terms of the actual quest design. I'm willing to let it go and I'm willing to forgive because, like I said, it feels like it's a bit rushed and it's at least some content before Warlords of Draenor, which is, you know, more content than Blizzard really needed to do. It's kind of just a little present that says, you know, here is the Iron Horde invading Azeroth. And I just think, okay, that's cool. But, you know, it could have been more epic. It could have been more interesting. There could have been voice acting. There wasn't any voice acting. And the quest design could have been better than just, you know, cut and paste, really generic, vanilla style. So in that regard, that's my criticism of it. But I'm not going to complain, really, because the quest line was probably just rushed out for us to give us something. It's like a little present. So I'm not all that concerned. So yeah, quest line, not that bad. And apparently it was bugged and it didn't give you a trinket, but it should give you a 520 trinket, something like that. So if you need a 520 trinket and you haven't done this quest line yet, then it's worth it. Go and do that. And then there is Upper Blackrock Spire, the level 90 preview dungeon. I'll include a link in the description below. I've done a guide for it, which includes my new style, and hopefully you folks like that. I'd like some feedback as to what you think about it, because I think it's going to be the main format for all of the guides that I do in Warlords of Draenor. I think it's really good in terms of presenting information, and it looks quite stylized, and it goes well with the UI that I made to go with the style, so I'd like to know what you guys think about that. But Upper Blackrock Spire, again, too easy, in my opinion. But again, I'm willing to forgive and forget because, again, it's more content that isn't designed for level 90. This stuff is not designed to be level 90 content. It's designed to be a level 100 dungeon, or whatever it is. I imagine it's going to be a heroic dungeon at level 100 regardless. And that's really where most of the people are going to do most of it. So really, I think that scaling it down for level 90 and letting us do 3 of the 5 bosses is kind of cool. I think that's a nice little thing to give us a bit more content. It's not really that hard for someone like me and the guild that I did run it with. If you've seen the DPS version of it, you'll see that we just tore that instance apart when we had a group of 5 guildies and we're all in heroic or mythic gear. We just annihilated it. There wasn't really any hope for the instance, but, you know, we massively outgeared it because it still is technically the end of an expansion because we don't have any kind of content that is, you know, above level 90 to deal with, so it's not that big of a deal. And there are some interesting mechanics there. Like, I love the fact that there are a whole bunch of conal abilities for the tanks to, you know, face enemies away from and dodge. I imagine at level 100, those conal abilities are going to be quite devastating if you get hit by them. I mean, I know that the eruption from the Draconid monstrosities near the second boss, if you get hit by that as a tank, you get disoriented and you lose all your aggro. And in a pug, that might be the end of the bloody world. So, you know, tanks, make sure you're watching what you're standing in. I hope they do more stuff like that because that looked very interesting to do. So there's that. And there are, of course, a few more interesting mechanics like, you know, dispelling things. And it's nice to see dispelling curses and enrages being things you can do now. Although, again, it's not really that big of a deal, but it is helpful. And it is nice to be able to see and talk about them on guides. So there's that. And you're really going to have to think about those things come Warlords of Draenor on the 100 heroics. So, you know, it's kind of a little example of, you know, this is what it's going to be like this is with training wheels. When we take the training wheels off, you're gonna fall off the bike. So be damn careful when you do it, and think about how you're supposed to do it, as opposed to, you know, oh lol, we can just face roll through it. And some groups can. I've been in some pugs that had a bit of trouble, but I never wiped. So actually, I wiped once. The only time I wiped was when our tank got feared into a wall. I couldn't heal him, and then we accidentally pulled another group. And then the tank just couldn't do anything. So that was why we wiped, because of a little bug. But, I mean, other than that, it's all fine. And again, I'm willing to forgive and forget, because training wheels, little preview, it's not the final thing, and don't think this is what it's going to be like in Warlords or Draenor. It's not. This is the instance with training wheels. Get used to them and learn what you can from it, I say. And I have not yet actually had a chance to jump into the Siege of Orgrimmar. I will do so on Monday. I believe it's Monday. That's when the guild is going to be doing an experimental run and talking a little bit about Warlords of Draenor and discussing what we're going to be doing. I will record that, and I'll put that up as a WoW Live so you folks can see exactly what it's going to be like. I mean, you probably have already done it before me, but that's not too big of a deal. I'm kind of done with Siege of Orgrimmar, in all honesty. I'm just done with it. I've done it so much. It would be nice to just go through it, get the heirlooms, and be done. But, you know, that's about it. So that's the rating. I haven't heard too much about it. Apparently, in some aspects, it's really damn hard, and in some aspects, it's really easy and really weird. Just like I predicted. I said, you know, be careful. Things are going to be upside down. Things are going to be haywire. And look, things are upside down and haywire. It's just the case. It always is with these pre-patches. So, again, just wait. We're not at max level. All of this stuff is not really tuned that well at the moment. So just live and let live. Just let it be and just get on with it and see what you can do, see what you can't. I will say, I can solo every single Cataclysm raid now, which is nice. I love the fact that I can do that. And yeah, that's cool for getting gear. So, woohoo! I like that fact. So, yes, that's most of 6.0.2. And before I talk about my last little topic about the patch, I just want to kind of cover it as a whole and why I think it's not the best pre-patch they've ever done. Now, I have been in the game since vanilla, so I've seen every pre-patch. I saw the Burning Crusade pre-patch with the Dark Portal opening. This one was kind of similar, but the Dark Portal opening in Burning Crusade, in that pre-patch, was much more just, okay, the Dark Portal has opened, constant waves of demons that you have to hold back, and then like a little mini-boss. And that was pretty cool. I liked that. It felt very kind of us versus them. Horde and Alliance had to band together to fight these guys. They were pretty tough, from what I recall, but we never really had too many problems. I don't think the boss ever actually won, but, you know, that's just the way of it. And so that one was okay. Not as good as the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch, I will say, but it was pretty good and quite novel because it was one of the first times I'd ever been in that kind of thing, because I missed the opening of Anchorage and I never really got into raiding before that, so it was a nice little thing to do. So there was that. And then Wrath of the Lich King, I think, was really damn good with the plague that started to spread where you turned into a ghoul. I'm actually serious. A plague started to spread throughout the player world, and you would get turned into a ghoul and you'd last like an hour or so, and then you would die. You'd actually die and take gear damage and have to, you know, resurrect. And you could actually bite people and explode, and, you know, you'd become attackable by everyone. So you could go into these major cities as a ghoul and start infecting people, and it was like a zombie outbreak. And that was friggin' awesome. That was amazing. That was just so good. And then you had the different necropolis, or necropoli, I suppose, hovering over some of the major cities and assaulting them, and you've got undead roaming around the places as the Lich King made his move. And then you had the first story with Thrall and Garrosh and getting interrupted in the middle of their Mac Gora, because believe it or not, during the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch, Garrosh basically said, we need to take the fight to the Lich King right now. And Thrall was basically like, I don't know why, I want to talk to Jaina and the Alliance first so we can do something together. And then Garrosh was like, yeah, you suck at leading this horde. I challenge you to a Mac Gora, which, if you don't know, that is basically orc slang for a duel to the death. If I win, I get to be leader of the horde. And they were fighting, and it actually looked like Garrosh was going to win. Although I don't know if Thrall was holding back, because Thrall is a hell of a shaman and could probably, at that point, have annihilated Garrosh. So I don't know if he was holding back. So they were halfway through it. Garrosh looked like he was going to win. And then suddenly the Lich King and his undead minions were like, yo, what's up? We're going to invade Orgrimmar. And they had to delay it. And then after you fight back the invasion on Orgrimmar, Thrall's like, okay, yeah, we're going to Northrend, prepare the horde, and then Garrosh was like, oh, that's better. We can do this another time then. So that happened. That was a really great pre-patch. And then the Cataclysm pre-patch was also really great. It started really subtle. Like every now and then, you would just feel an earthquake, because remember, Deathwing is starting to rise from underneath the earth. So you just feel an earthquake. And you'd be like, was that a bug? And then the Blues were really tight-lipped about it. It was like, no, we don't know what that's all about. It's probably just a bug. And then the earthquakes started getting more and more frequent and stronger. And you're like, oh, what the hell is going on here? So that started happening, and then this kind of cult started spreading throughout the different cities. It was like different phases. So the first week, it would be one thing, and then it would progress over the next week or so, and then it would slowly build up. So it started with the earthquakes, and then this cult appeared, and you had to kind of try and sabotage them, and you could even actually join them to learn about them, and you'd infiltrate them. And it turned out they were the Twilight's Hammer, and they wanted to start spreading word and getting followers. And before you can really do anything about it, bang! Deathwing begins the elemental unrest, where the different elements just go completely bonkers and start attacking all the different cities because they're completely enraged. Like, Orgrimmar was covered in fire elementals, and you'd have heroes of the Horde like Vol'jin and Rexxar and Thrall and Garrosh all standing together to try and hold off these elemental invasions. And you would bring the fight to the Twilight's Hammer and drive them back out of your cities, and these attacks would come in very frequently. And then once they died down, Thrall made Garrosh the leader of the Horde and buggered off to Nagrand to meet Agra and start to train to become the World Shaman. And that all happened in that pre-patch. And then, of course, Cataclysm, bang, that all started. Although I suppose that technically wasn't a pre-patch. It was kind of a pre-patch, if you know what I mean. It happened before Cataclysm actually happened. But that was still a really great pre-patch. So in comparison to that, the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch, and I will say the Mr. Pandaria pre-patch, I didn't even see. I wasn't involved in World of Warcraft at that time, so I don't even know what it was. So it may have been worse, it may have been better. All I know is that in my experience, the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch was one of the weakest, which is, not that big of a deal. I think the reason why it's not so massive and amazing is because it's so technical. And this brings me on to the main point of this video. Bugs. Now, I've seen this all over the place, on forums, in the guild chats, in trades, in generals, in my raid team, just everywhere, basically. Just absolutely everywhere. People complaining about bugs. It's like, oh, this is bug, 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 and they're very unhappy about it, which is understandable. I mean, having bugs in a video game is never any good. It's never really fun. Although sometimes it can be quite funny, but not in this kind of regard. It's not like, oh, yeah, I can't do anything because I freeze up and disconnect every single time I try and log on. That sucks. Or, this add-on doesn't work. That's not really Blizzard's problem, but, it will get sorted out eventually. And, they say all these different things, these mobs just kill me in one hit. These mobs aren't properly balanced. Ordos is impossible. And people say, like, Blizzard, have you not actually tested any of this? And that really pisses me off. Do you have any idea how massive this game is? It is absolutely gigantic. And it's completely expected that something like this pre-patch will break it, because this pre-patch does not just add in a few NPCs. It does not just give you a new phase where you have to do a few new quests. It changes every single NPC in the game. Every single quest, every single spell, every single source of damage has been changed to some degree or another. So bloody hell, of course there are going to be patches a couple of days after it releases. And of course Blizzard are going to work on it, and you can submit bug reports to help them do that, and I think you should. But sitting there and complaining about it and saying Blizzard do no QA testing is completely insane, because this game is so big that you cannot possibly QA it all before release. It would take months and months and months, and they've had time to work on it. Of course they have, but they can't get everything, especially with the small group of people in comparison to the main subscriber count that are on the beta and that go to PTRs. They just don't have enough information. And crash reports that your computer sends to them, and bug reports that you send to them, and talking about this on the forums, talking, not complaining, that will help clear these bugs up, and they will start going away as Blizzard works to, pounce on these bugs, as Rigarius tweeted, as far as I'm aware. So yes, bugs are part of this whole process. There's nothing we can do about it. So just live with it. It's part of being in an MMO, and please just stop complaining about it, really. It's just, you've got to expect it. You really do. Just don't get so angry about it, because they will be fixed eventually, and we'll go into Warlords of Draenor with, things not broken, and with that content ready for us, and, actually working. So that's kind of what Blizzard are probably trying to do right now. Make that content work nicely when we get to it. So just have some patience while we wait for the month until Warlords of Draenor releases properly. And that's what I say. I say just wait, be patient, and then we can have a great time when Warlords releases. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch 6.0.2. That's it for today's daily discussion. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Today's piece of music shall be a piece of tavern music from Booty Bay. It's called Pirate Tavern. And just imagine a whole bunch of sailors and smugglers and traders relaxing down in a very rough and dark bar where they can just relax and hopefully not get mugged and have a good ale while they wait for their shipments to be delivered, for the transports to arrive, and for their ships to be stocked up. And they can trade stories and discuss all kinds of different things with a good mug of grog in their hand. So that's the music for today. Hopefully you'll like that. And of course, if you have any suggestions for topics or you wish to send me your questions to answer on the daily discussion, you can contact me using the links in the description, or you can just leave a comment. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck with your gaming endeavors. So, if you need a 520 trinket and you haven't done the burning, and you haven't done the, so if you need a 520 trinket and you don't have, so if you need a 520 trinket and you haven't done this, so if you need a 520 twink, so if you need a 520 trinket, fucking hell!